There's nothing in hockey quite like that sound. I haven't even said it yet, and you probably already know exactly what I'm talking about. A release so quick, so clean, and so perfectly placed that the goalie doesn't even move before it's already over. The bar rings, the horn sounds, the building completely loses its mind. That's the most beautiful thing in this sport. So naturally, I wanted to know, who does it better than anyone else in the NHL right now? At first, the answer feels obvious. Matthews, Pasternak, Draisaitl, McKinnon, Kucherov. The usual names. But the second you try to actually define what a sniper is, the whole conversation changes. What's up, guys? Welcome back. Today, we're answering a question that sounds simple, but turned out to be way harder than I expected. Who is the best pure sniper in the NHL? Because the more I looked into this, the more I realized hockey doesn't really track sniping properly. A rebound from the crease counts the same as a goalie getting absolutely frozen from the circle. The stat sheet sees one goal, but everybody watching knows those are not the same shot. So for this video, I wanted to isolate pure shot making. Clean releases, perfect placement, beating NHL goalies clean from distance. Not just who scores the most, who actually snipes the most. So, I started with the simplest approach, total goals. And the leaderboard looked exactly how you'd expect. Elite players, elite scorers, no surprises. But that still wasn't answering the question. It was telling me who scores the most, not who snipes the most. So then I looked at shooting percentage, but that had the same problem. McDavid bouncing one in off Hyman counts the same as a perfect Draisaitl release picking the corner. It rewards efficiency, but it doesn't care how the goal happened. It doesn't care where the shot came from. It doesn't care if it was a rebound. It doesn't care if the goalie was already sliding across the crease. That's finishing, not sniping. Luckily, MoneyPuck already has a stat that helps clear some of this up. Shooting talent above average. And immediately, the list started looking better. Draisaitl, Robertson, Panarin, Kyrou, Marchenko. Now, we were looking at players consistently scoring more than expected from the chances they get. But even this still had a problem. It included everything. Tip-ins, rebounds, power play chaos, net front scrambles, broken plays. Those are all still goals, but they're not snipes. So eventually, I stopped asking, who scores the most? And started asking, what actually counts as a snipe? Clean release, distance, no rebound, no tip, no chaos. Just a shooter beating an NHL goalie clean. So I built a filter using goals from the last 3 years. 5-on-5 only, minimum 15 feet from the net, no rebounds, no tips. Basically, I wanted to strip away everything except pure release scoring. And once that filter went on, the leaderboard finally started looking right. Panarin, McKinnon, Caulfield, Connor, Thompson, Robertson, Matthews. That's a sniper list. That's what the leaderboard looks like once the garbage goals disappear. But totals still had a flaw. They reward ice time. They reward volume. They reward players who've been in the sample longer. So the next question became, who is beating goalies more than expected from these locations? And luckily, by going back to some more of MoneyPuck's data, I could build my own stat. Goals above expected per 100 filtered shots. Basically, snipes per 60. And that's when the list started looking really clean. Panarin was ridiculous in a tier of his own. And taking into account number of goals scored as well as snipes per 60, Kyle Connor and Tage Thompson are both right there. Now this felt like the right direction. But I still had a problem. At this point, I had a list of candidates, not an answer, because spreadsheets can only take you so far. Expected goals models don't watch film. They don't know whether a goalie got beat clean or whether the puck bounced through 3 bodies first. They only know shot location, shot type, traffic, and angle. They can tell you a shot was dangerous. They cannot tell you it was filthy. So I went to the tape. For every player still in the conversation, I pulled full goal highlights from one of their most recent complete seasons. Every single goal, and I watched all of them. Hours worth of film. And I had one rule. The release and shot placement had to be the reason the puck went in. Not a perfect cross-crease pass, not a screen, not a weird bounce, not a broken play. Those are goals. They count in the standings. But they are not snipes. And pretty quickly, the difference started showing up. Some players who looked elite statistically were finishing a lot of ugly goals. Others didn't dominate the raw numbers, but were basically putting together sniper reels every night. And one player in particular completely took over the rankings. But before we get there, let's talk about the guys who also earned their spot. Number 3, Tage Thompson. This one shouldn't surprise anyone who's actually watched him play. The size, the release, the ability to beat goalies clean from the top of the circles with absolute missiles. And when I went through the film, the snipe percentage matched the data almost perfectly. Consistent, repeatable, devastating. He absolutely belongs in this conversation. And in second place, Artemi Panarin. Panarin has been one of the most creative offensive players in hockey for years. Everybody already knows that. But what surprised me watching the footage was how often the puck went exactly where he wanted it to. Not because of chaos, not because of traffic, because he simply placed it there. The release is deceptive, the accuracy ridiculous. Honestly, he was probably the hardest player to argue against during this entire process. So who beat him? I pulled up the highlights, and there was one player whose goals just looked different. Goal after goal after goal. Clean release, perfect placement, goalie completely frozen. The kind of goals where you rewind the clip just to watch the shot again. Young, still improving, and honestly, not the name I expected to end up here. But there he was. Macklin Celebrini. He was absurdly efficient. And after watching the film, I can tell you, it was no fluke. 19 of his goals this year qualified as clean snipes. That put him just behind Caulfield for the lead, ahead of Kyle Connor, ahead of William Nylander, and ahead of Nathan MacKinnon. And his snipes per 60 came out to 5.58, higher than everyone on this list, even higher than Panarin at 5.48, a teenager in his second year. But honestly, the stats still weren't what fully sold me, because efficiency and rate stats can always get pushed around by smaller samples. What really stood out was the shot itself. So I went back and looked at raw shot speed across every player in this group. And Celebrini's hardest shot this season was 97.9 miles per hour. That's not just good. That's tied for the second hardest shot on this entire list with Tage Thompson and behind only Morgan Geekie. Harder than Pasternak, harder than Nylander, harder than MacKinnon, and harder than Matthews. And his average shot speed this year was 62.2 miles per hour. That ranks third in the group, behind only Tage Thompson and Artemi Panarin. But here is the important part. NHL Edge doesn't separate shot speed by shot type. Slap shots and wrist shots get lumped together, and slap shots are obviously faster. So players who take a lot of slap shots naturally inflate their average shot speed. Panarin's slap shot rate is 16%. Pasternak's is 23.5%. Morgan Geekie's is 14.3%. Celebrini's? Just 4.3%. The lowest slapshot rate in the entire group. So when you adjust for that, the picture gets even more impressive. Because he's not padding the number with a bunch of slap shots. He's generating that velocity mostly off wrist shots and snapshots. He's still growing into his frame, and he is already firing absolute rockets. And what makes this even scarier is that he isn't just a one-dimensional shooter. He can slow the game down. He can manipulate goalies. He can take whatever space he's given and take advantage of it. Quick release when the window is small, patient when it isn't. That combination, elite shot speed, elite release variety, elite finishing percentage, elite snipe rate on a 19-year-old, is honestly one of the scariest offensive profiles I've seen in years. And if this kid eventually gets an elite playmaker on his wing, like, I don't know, maybe Ivar Stenberg, I think there's a lot more goals coming. And probably a few rockets too. So, after all the stats, all the filters, and hours of film review, Macklin Celebrini ended up at the top. Not because he scores the most goals, not because he takes the most shots, because right now, nobody combines release, placement, and shot velocity quite like he does. But let me know what you guys think. Did the data get this right? Who's the best pure sniper in the NHL right now? Who's the best sniper of all time? And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and check out our other breakdowns because we've got a lot more coming soon. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.